Good evening, cult members, and welcome to the Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
Welcome, Whovians, to our review. God damn it, Davies, of The Legend of Ruby Sunday, the latest episode of Doctor Who, the penultimate episode. Davies is going to do something that none of us expected him to do.
Right. We had all of these. I mean, everybody. We had all these theories about who was behind everything, and
not one of you picked this.
Pretty sure this was not on anybody's bingo card.
This is not on my bingo card. I thought it was going to be a brand new character. Spoilers going all the way ahead, so if you haven't watched the episode, we're about to ruin a bunch of poo. Okay. The one who waits is Shutek, who is from the Fourth Doctor's time period, or his run of the show, Tom Baker's run of the show, and he is that Shutek is the god of death, essentially, and the episodes that were from. It was a 4-part episode in 1975 with the Fourth Doctor, and they imprisoned him in Shutek in a pyramid with
on Mars,
on here with the eye kind of holding him in place from Mars.
Yeah.
Except he convinced the Doctor to. He has a hold over the Doctor, a mind control over the Doctor, and the Doctor flies the TARDIS to Mars and blows up the thing on Mars, the Eye of Ra or something, or Eye of Mars.
Horus.
Or Eye of Horus.
Right. Horus and Shutek are brothers.
And so somewhere in there, Shutek got attached to the TARDIS and has been waiting.
Right.
Since the Fourth Doctor to materialize into our world, and his plan is everything opposite of the Doctor. So if the Doctor runs around and tries to save everyone, Shutek wants to run around and dust everybody and kill him.
Right.
He wants to bring death, and death is good for him.
Right.
And this version has been in control of Maestro, the Toy Maker, Susan Triad, who was being played by Susan Swift in all of the episodes, and she's kind of been like the herald or the spy for everything because they needed Ruby, which they still haven't really explained,
right,
to go into the time vault. What did they call it?
Time window.
Time window. And that was the connective tissue between two different TARDISes to allow them to kind of get into the...
Right.
Oh, boy. Davies is going deep into the poo.
Right. So, we still don't know who Ruby's mom is. It's like she wasn't there. Like, she wasn't when...
Yeah.
In 2004, when someone dropped off the baby and they watched it, it's like whoever it is not actually there.
Yeah.
So.
Or she's aware enough to hide her face.
No, because it's all glitchy.
That's true. It
looks like she's a projection.
Yeah.
So.
She pointed to the west.
Or to the Doctor. God damn it. Okay, I want to ask this question before we, now that we've kind of explained what happened, and we're going to try to work out what happened as we have this kind of ongoing conversation. Did you like this episode? Like, as it's just a standalone episode... Maybe not as a standalone episode, as the episode for this season. Did you like this episode? I think it's maybe a better way of asking it. I mean, is this the episode for this season? I mean, it says to be continued.
Yes, we have one more next week.
Right.
Which is the Valley of Death or whatever.
And I kind of feel like that's not... You can't answer that until you see the next one, because it's a 2-parter and they need to go together.
Right.
So, I mean...
you get all the people, right? Everybody's back together. I mean, Donna wasn't
Donna and Tennant's doctor weren't the 14th.
right, but Tennant doesn't necessarily work there.
Yeah,
Donna does.
right.
But Rose was there, and Kate Stewart was there.
Kate Stewart was there.
And,
Keep talking.
And the other companion, and I can't remember her name, the redhead, was there. You know, so you get some people back together. But I mean, I can't make a judgment because I don't know where this is going.
Right.
I mean, I think it's cool.
Melanie Bush is the other companion you're thinking of.
Mel. Yeah.
Mel.
They call her Mel. You know, I think it's cool that they've introduced for new Who fans, essentially a new character, a new baddie, right?
Right.
And for people who, you know, watched the older ones, I mean, I vaguely remember because 4 was my doctor. I mean, that was when 4 was on was when I first started getting into it. So actually, it was probably reruns on PBS.
PBS, yeah.
But he was the first one that we got to see, and I vaguely remember the Pyramids of Mars. I remember that was like a big deal,
The big story.
And
they said it was a 4-parter, so that's
right.
a big story.
And I was just gonna say that. So back then, they like all of the OG. I mean, I don't want to call them old doctors. The previous Doctor Who's versus the new Who.
It's what everybody calls it, so we're just going to run with it.
New Who. All of those were like 4 episode arcs, and there could be an underlying, you know, the Master or the Daleks or whatever.
Right.
But you know, they would, and I think we have friends who are from the UK who have told us this is why Sherlock, the current Moffat Sherlock, is like 90 minutes because in the UK most of the shows are 30 minutes, and so they show them in 30 minutes, and where here we do most of our shows are like an hour.
Yeah.
So
most of our dramas are an hour. Yeah.
Yeah. Sitcoms are a little different, but so it was 4 shows that made up like a 2-hour thing.
Yeah.
But they were each half an hour each. So anyway, so I think that I think it's cool that we get some, like none of us thought this was who the baddie is. I just want to know how this is gonna flush out moving forward, because I don't feel like if this all gets wrapped up in a nice little bow in the next episode, then I'm going to feel a little let down.
Right.
Because this has been an entire season build up.
Right.
I want these things, and I kind of don't think it's going to, because it still doesn't answer who it was, who this person was that picked up the Master's tooth, unless
it was
what was his what's his name, the big Betty Shefik Shutek, unless
Shutek,
it whatever was controlling Susan. But I mean, you still have the Master's tooth out there.
Yeah, it's Davies has said he has a 3-season arc story that he wants to tell. So, if you're going to introduce somebody of this, if you're introduce a villain, a monster of this ability and magnitude, I agree. If it's all wrapped up in a nice little bow next week, I think I'm going to be a little disappointed.
Yeah.
However, if they
if they beat Shutek, but there's a lingering question of did we really beat him? Did we really encase him? And having Ruby around is the conduit that keeps Shutek around because of everything. Like, this only happens because the TARDIS goes. The Doctor takes the TARDIS back to when Ruby's mom drops off Ruby at the church,
Right.
and then they watch that scene in the time room thing,
And the TARDIS is in the room.
and the TARDIS is in the room.
Yeah.
That's kind of opens the loop for Shutek to come. So Ruby is attached to that story for some reason. So I don't think we're going to get a nice little bow conclusion on this story next week. I think there'll be a conclusion, but it won't be the conclusion.
Yeah, I kind of hope that it's the proverbial finger on the button. The world is gonna die. The Doctor has lost, and then we have to wait until next season.
Yeah.
Which is very classic Who.
It's very classic Who, and it's also very Davies.
Yeah.
To kind of have that incomplete conclusion.
Yeah.
There will be some kind of conclusions next week, but like I said, I don't think it'll be the ultimate conclusion. And there were some clues in this episode from my point of view that leads to that conversation. And one of those is Ruby finding out that the Doctor has changed his face multiple times.
Right.
She knew that he was very old.
Yeah.
But she hadn't been told that he changes his face.
Yeah.
And
which I was like, wait, what? You didn't, like, duh. And it was like, oh, well, when
would they have that conversation?
Would it have come up? Yeah.
Yeah. And there's been no, like, time travel she understands and that he's a time traveler and he's immortal and stuff like that, but not that he changes his face.
Yeah, there was something in the baby episode where he said, yeah, maybe it was I can't die or something, and she was like, wait, what? Or I've died before or something, and she was like, wait, what? And he's like, later, we don't have time.
Yeah, they were dealing with the babies. There were babies all crying or something like that. Yeah.
So, yeah.
But in that conversation, she asks him, "Don't go changing your face. Like, don't go changing. I like this one." And and Ncuti grabs Millie and grabs Ruby. The Doctor grabs Ruby and says, I plan on sticking with this one for a long time," or something like that.
Yeah.
So, from my point of view, as a Doctor Who fan who wants a Doctor to last more than 3 seasons, let's do this 3-season arc. Okay, cool. And the thread that doesn't get solved is the Master. And the Master comes back and is 4, 5, and 6. And we get in Ncuti. And the way they filmed everything, too. Season 2 is done. It's in the can. They're doing the edit now. So they were already filming Season 2 before Season 1 came out.
Yeah.
And so they're good to go, and they have Disney kind of umbrella helping them with this stuff. So what I'm trying to get to is, Ncuti can go run off now and go film something else. Mm-hmm. He was in Barbie. He was in what was the bombing show?
Oh yeah, Fly Boys. No,
that's the other.
It's like Fly Boys, but
it's Band of Brothers, but it's the bombing.
But it's the
bombing.
Yeah.
So he was in that too, and so he's was great in Sex Education. He's been great in this. He's going to be a hot commodity to be in something. So the way they filmed it, they're going to allow him to be able to do stuff, but they're going to be able, if they're only going to do 8-episode seasons, he can go film for 3 months get all of the 8 episodes for the season done.
Yep.
And then he's got the rest of the year to go do stuff and go on vacation in the Caribbean because he's
almost 2 years, right? Because it's not going to be like the next season won't be out until next year this time.
Yeah.
They've probably already filmed the Christmas episode because
Yes,
Davey
yes,
said
that
that
is-
we're going back to Christmas episodes, not New Year's episodes, and which I personally love.
I personally love.
Because that for a long time was our family tradition.
Yep.
Christmas night after everybody's eaten and drank and opened presents and blah blah blah, we'd all just like curl up on the couch and watch
Doctor Who. Yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
but that idea, this concept of we've been building up to the one who waits, that character. We've been waiting for that character, and now that character's here. It does not make sense to win that fight in the very next episode.
Yeah.
It's going to be the lingering thing that goes on for the next couple of seasons. Now, I could be completely wrong, and I'm totally okay with it being wrong if they make it make sense.
Yeah.
I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah.
But ultimately, what it comes down for me is I really liked this episode. But as it got done, I'm like, okay, we got a couple of questions answered, but now we have more.
Right.
And one of the things that I've really loved about this season so far is that we have these fun individual episodes, very Doctor Who, as we have come to love it. Mm-hmm. With these, the adventure of the week, the history one, the alien one, the horror one, Ruby died in one, the sci-fi one. So we've had all of those Doctor Who tropes with this underlying story that's all been like hinting going along the whole way.
Which is what we were complaining about.
That's exactly what I was going to.
Yeah.
Is that's one of the things that we were kind of complaining about with the Chibnall. Specifically the first year of the Chibnall run.
Yeah.
And then a lot of things kind of screwed them over with Flux. I think Flux was a really good idea in principle, and then there was a pandemic and all kinds of things happened or whatever.
Yeah.
And they had to trying to change their filming.
Yeah.
The only 3 of them could be in the room at the same time.
Yeah.
So it was. But I think with what they've been doing, with what Davies has kind of talked about, I think we're going to be satisfied, but not a conclusion next week.
Yeah, I don't expect to be satisfied at all. That's what I expect.
Okay, satisfied is maybe the right word, not the right word. More of, okay, that was awesome, and I really love this episode, and I love this season. I'm now going to be pissed off that I have to wait until
because it's
next spring.
It's been a long time since we have gotten to experience Davies in the now. Right, we go back and rewatch his episodes. From 9, never skip 9. From 9 on, we watch those over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So the anticipation, damn it, we have to wait a year for any kind of answers that we still don't get for another couple episodes or whatever. We haven't had to experience that because we're just watching them one right after the other.
Yeah.
So
I'm kind of looking forward to that because I want to be able to have like the part of the fun for me with Doctor Who and Star Wars is that kind of what's going to be like time to speculate responsibly.
Right. The wild speculation.
But the
for
wild
the next
speculation of what's going to happen,
months.
which is why I brought up the Master, because that's ultimately I think where we're going to go to. Whatever this next version of the Master is going to be, and I don't want to hear this. So they're going to break canon because the Master killed Missy and Missy died. The Master has died 500 times in this show and still come back. He's a Time Lord. They are a Time Lord. I guess at this point in time.
Yes, they are a Time Lord, just like they, the Doctor, are a Time Lord. So
confusing.
They're like, did you see an unregenerated, non-regenerated, whatever the body?
Right.
No. So
I'm okay if they want to do a whole arc of all the different Masters that are still alive coming in and messing with the Doctor. Have Saxon show up and have Missy show up and have Sasha show up as the Master from Jodie's run, and like I'd be totally down for that kind of fun, because of all the Doctor Who villains that we've gotten over the years, I like the Master the most because the Master is the intellectual equal to the Doctor.
Right.
It's not the Daleks who are just giant tanks, although scary. but they're not. I like the Daleks. I like the Cybermen. I like the Sistine. I like a lot of the Doctor Who villains. But the Master's my favorite because it is brilliance has to beat the Master.
Right.
Smarts has to build the Master.
Right, but I think that that's the point with this villain.
Yeah.
Is that like if you go back and read about what happened in the four
and Four's run with the Pyramids of Mars
with it like he almost didn't win. And if the the villain has all these minions too, like they could be running around. So I think I kind of feel like this is going to be because and if you think about it, like the Master, there was a big long time when the Master wasn't in Doctor Who.
Right.
And like in the classic Who, that's what it's called. In the classic Who, not old Who.
We've had one drink.
He didn't like the Master wasn't like something you always thought about, right? It wasn't like, oh, I bet you it's the Master, because the Master wasn't. Like when you least were thinking it was the Master, that's when
the Master showed up. Yeah.
So
that's why when they brought Sasha on for Jodie's run, and the end of that 2-part Bond episode with Jodie, and he showed and he said Master, and we all lost. Actually, so I got it like maybe 5 seconds before he actually said it. But like that surprise was perfect.
Yeah,
that was one of the things I really liked about how Chibnall like kind of handled that whole season was the introduction of the Master and the introduction of the Timeless Child. Although I think the execution of the Timeless Child, again, there was a bunch of other things that happened, but the idea that the Master went back and destroyed Gallifrey after the Doctors saved Gallifrey for the 2700th time or whatever, which is one of the things that I'm actually really happy about with this episode. Now that we're kind of working our way through it, is Shutek showing up is not is a character from Classic Who. Yes, many Doctor Who fans are like, this is a new villain. We've never heard of him before.
Right.
It's not the Daleks. It's not the Cybermen. It's
right.
not the
That's
Master.
what I was saying.
Yeah. It's
cool
like,
that
it's cool that it is a pre-existing character. It's not the Reavers from the Flux series, which was in the audio dramas only. It is an established character. Now, this character has shown up in the comics and in the Big Finish stuff, but they don't necessarily consider that stuff canon. Like, if it's not on the show, it's not canon.
Right.
But although they canonized Richard E. Grant's Doctor from the animated series last week with Rogue.
Right.
So that canonizes that animation run, or at least that Doctor.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate it that Davies understands Doctor Who at a level outside of maybe Moffat and Capaldi, and maybe Mark Gatiss. Mark Gatiss is like maybe the next step down, but he understands the full lore of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Not from 66 on to today.
Yeah.
And being able to say, I want to bring a big bad in. What's a big bad that makes sense? Here's one from the 4th Doctor from 1975. Let's bring that character in who had this huge, important, difficult arc with the Doctor. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
And so I'm really appreciative of that. Now, what happens next? I don't know. And I'm okay with that. Like, that's one of the things we've been talking about with the Acolyte is I like from week to week, I don't know what's going to happen in the next episode. I have so many questions. I have more questions than I have answers, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying trying to figure out, letting the story come to us and like having like let it be, like have it be a thing.
Yep.
A couple other things I want to talk about. We talked about how everybody was in this episode. Rose was in it. We got Morris. We got Morris Gibbs. who's played by Lenny Ross. Lenny is a
Rush.
Sorry,
Lenny Rush.
It's way over there, and it's all the same color. Let me see if my bifocals are working. He's a small person and a teenager, and was great in this episode. I loved a lot of his like. They pan back over to him, and he'd be like, "I don't know." Like he's supposed to be the genius of the group, and he's like, "I just did. I don't know." Like there was a whole section with the doctor. Like Kate would ask him a question, and he'd be like, "I don't know," and then Ruby would ask him a question, and he'd be like, "I don't know," and then Mel would ask him a question, he's like, "I don't know," and then they ask Morris, and Morris is like, "I don't know." It's like, does anybody know anything? Like this is unit. This is you guys are supposed to know some stuff. So I really liked that everybody was there. Ruby's mom, foster mom, was in the episode too. Carla. Again, it's way over there. The doctor like getting her credentials to get into unit, like and Kate in the background, like
and Kate was like, "Why do we even have security?" So you just zapped it
before they started the time room thing. Like I made a point of saying, like everybody's here. Like why is everybody here? Like something's going to happen. But ultimately, what happened in that whole scene was the emotional release for Ruby to try to figure out who her mom is. That whole sequence was a dead end for Ruby, like everything else for her.
Yeah.
When it comes to finding her mom, and everybody was there to be supportive.
Yeah.
Her foster mom was there. The doctor was there. The colonel was there. Like everybody was there to be supportive of Ruby. Now that leads to Shutik and all that stuff. But I really liked that whole sequence. We also got the doctor kind of channeling Nine with his leather jacket and his jeans, very 50s.
Yeah. Very Grease.
Very Grease. Each of the episodes, he's had a little hint of some of the other doctors. We talked about the Church on Ruby Road episode. He had the big trench coat like David's got. And so,
and not even the doctors, because he was wearing Nardal's beanie
and orange coat. In the Pixie episode or whatever the episode with was that 73 yards.
Yeah.
And then last week he was wearing the red velvet coat during Rogue, which is something that Capaldi wore, a red velvet coat. So there's been like I really like, we've talked about the costumes a lot, that he hasn't had one set costume.
No.
But he's had all these awesome costumes, so I'm just like, oh my God.
I am pretty sure that when they went to Nchuti and said, okay, so, the doctor changes outfits, every time he regenerates, they regenerate. What are you thinking? And I'm pretty sure Nchuti was like, well, I'm a fashionista, and I am not wearing the same outfit every episode, so... I will do an homage to everybody something new each episode.
And I know the costume director was like,
yeah,
I'm totally in for this. Morris, they asked a question that they were able to solve all of the
TARDIS anagram,
the TARDIS anagram. They were able to figure that out, and we've been able to figure out most of the all of the alien incursions or something. They said something like that, and Morris is like, except for that one guy, we're still trying to figure him out. So it was kind of a throwaway line, and it's not Shutek, so there's something else that Davies wanted to throw in there, and giving it to Morris as a kind of a throwaway line with everything else that was going on. It might have floated by everybody else's head, but I turned to her and I'm like, what was that?
Yeah, I'm like, what does that mean?
They talked about the snow.
They did talk about, and she made it snow before they even
snow.
Started. And then my favorite line was when her foster mom said, when they were like, okay, everybody out, Kate's like, everybody out except for Ruby, and
Non-essential employee.
and yeah, all non-essential. Hannah, was that her name, that ended up channeling
Oh yeah.
like, no, you stay, and Ruby Saucer Mom. Harriet, there you go. Ruby Saucer Mom was like, no, I'm staying, and Ruby was like, okay, you're gonna stay. What are you gonna do? And she's like, well, I want to take you home. And she's like, and I love you, goodbye. Because that is not the answer. That's not what we need right now.
Right,
if you're gonna sit down at a terminal and start typing
Go
away,
into the
cool.
town.
But I can't have you.
We brought up Rose a couple times. I really love that Rose was there.
Yeah.
I wonder if it was supposed to be Donna and like Kate couldn't do it.
I don't know.
It just I'm not opposed to having Rose there, but I just
I mean, if both of them had been there, that would have been cool too. But I think that, and it makes sense because she's like Ruby's age, and so they instantly kind of bonded, and they were holding hands and ran off to Ruby's house, and so that she actually gets somebody that's her age, around with.
And a head taller than Ruby. And I love that Mrs. Flood, we'll talk about Mrs. Flood in a second, but Mrs. Flood, like, going to watch Grandma, it's just like, oh, you never got that growth spurt that you were hoping for. She's standing next to Rose, and there's like Mutt and Jeff standing next to each other.
So we forgot about Mrs. Flood completely.
Mrs. Flood, I thought about that when we were, before we got kind of around to Rose, and it was bringing Mrs. Flood over to watch Grandma. And everybody left. Ruby, her foster mom, Rose. Everybody left with the tape, and Mrs. Flood, Grandma was like, "I would like a cup of tea," and Mrs. Flood like, get used to disappointment, or essentially, he's coming.
A storm is coming.
And
then she looked out the window, and then that was it. And we never saw that again.
She looked right at the camera at us again.
Yep.
And then they pan back and they show the storm coming in, of Shutek coming in. So we have that kind of hanging. So Mrs. Flood is an operative of Shutek. Harriet Harbinger ended up being. This is the third time we've gotten a reference to someone with the Harbinger anagram as well. And so I love that they just introduced her as Harriet, and we're both like Harriet.
Oh, Harriet Jones?
Harriet Jones.
PM.
PM. We know.
We know.
I expected that joke to happen, but then when they explained it's Harbinger.
Yeah.
So Harbinger is one of the heralds for Shutek, but then Mrs. Twist, Susan Twist, Susan
Triad.
Susan Triad is the hand of Shutek, because
I think they're all
the minion kind of thing,
Harbingers, because Harriet then turned into the same thing that Susan turned into, and apparently if they touch you, you basically turn into a pillar of salt or ash, or you get snapped, dusted, which then if is her name Susan too? Mrs. Flood.
I don't think Susan, they actually call
Mrs.
her.
Flood. Anyway, if she turns into that and touches Grandma, we're gonna have words. We're gonna all have to write.
Right.
Davy's.
No, it's just Mrs. Flood.
Mrs. Flood. Okay.
Yeah. Fun fact: when I was reading up on Shutek, trying to figure out, like, I'm like, I think I know what this is, but I'm not quite sure. I was reading up on it. In the original series, it was voiced by Gabriel Wolf.
Okay.
And Gabriel Wolf is the voice again.
Oh, nice.
So that's really nice that they were able to bring him back. How old am I? 49 years later.
They did that with the Daleks, too. The guy that voiced the Daleks in the Classic Who.
In the Classic Who, they brought him back, too. So that was cool. Is there anything else in this episode that we want to talk about? I can't think of anything major. We talked about some of the minor stuff. The one that's going to be in the back of my head is the Morse line. That one.
Yep. We will see if anybody else has any thoughts about that one.
Yes. So let us know what you thought of our review and our discussion of The Legend of Ruby Sunday, the latest episode from Doctor Who, the penultimate episode. I hate that word, but whatever. Let us know in the comments. Please be nice. There's a requirement around here. Like this video and the podcast feed, and subscribe to both because it helps us out, and share it with all your friends because it's free and it helps us out a ton. And we have a bunch of Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok stuff going on right now too, so like us over there. Links in the description down below. And until next time, cult members, good afternoon, good evening, and good night now.